Hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. If you do like the programming you see here and the artists and musicians that I visit with, please be sure and hit the like button below and also subscribe to the channel. Wayne Proctor is an American singer, guitarist, and songwriter. During the 60s, he was a member of Orlando garage rock band We the People. The band formed in late 65 and was active between 1966 and 1970. Original members were Randy Boyte on organ, David Duff bass, Tommy Talton on guitar, Wayne on lead guitar, and drummer Tom Wynn, soon to be replaced by Lee Ferguson. Although the band's home base was in Orlando, they recorded in Nashville. We the People issued several singles from the period 1966 to 1978 on a couple of different labels. Wayne left the band in early 67 to return to college and to try to avoid the draft. In later years, attesting to the continued interest in the band, there would be a trio of compilation albums, one on the Collectables label and two on Sundazed music. Today, Wayne is happily retired and resides in the upstate area of South Carolina. Well, welcome, Wayne.
Hello. How are you doing, Greg?
Good. Thank you for being here and taking time out to do this. And we're finally going to make it happen here. We're going. I'm glad we did that test run too, to get the bugs worked out. Well, take us back to the beginning, Wayne. Where were you born?
I was born in Leesburg, Florida, and spent most of my or half of my life there before I moved to South Carolina in 1985.
Okay. Do you recall your early childhood growing up there?
Oh yeah, just about every minute of it.
Yeah.
I think about it a lot.
You had a good time growing up
I
there.
did. I did have a great time.
Yeah. And of course, that was back when I talked to several, many musicians around your age. And I can remember this too. There's a few years difference here, but, leaving the doors unlocked and playing out till all hours of the evening and,
hmm
and your parents not worrying, if you're safe and things like that. It was a different time. Yeah.
Being from Florida, as kids we used to follow the mosquito truck,
Oh,
and they were spraying DDT,
yeah.
and we would get behind it and breathe it all in. But it was fun. We didn't think about this.
Right, right, right. Well, was there music in the household early on?
There was. My mom played guitar and played piano, and her brother and my uncle played very much like Chet Atkins, and it kind of inspired me. I love the sound of it. I love the guitar, and my mom played piano in several churches, and so it's a southern thing, I guess. But it, I'm fortunate to be in a family that is musically inclined.
Yeah.
So it didn't really happen to me because I made it happen. It just was sort of natural, I guess.
The genes were there. Yes. Well, was the guitar the first instrument that you learned to play?
That's a good question. I can't remember. I played the piano. I think I played a little bit on the piano, and then my mom taught me some on the guitar.
Okay.
And my uncle Bert from Lakeland, Florida, was he was kind of my hero when it comes to guitar work because his voice was so great, and he sounded like Chet Atkins and played that style. And
Yeah.
that's really what got me into it. Also, the Ventures and bands like that I heard on the radio.
Right, right. Yeah, I've heard early on. Doing these that how Chet Atkins and also Les Paul and Mary Ford were so influential
Oh,
too.
yeah, yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was quite young, but I was amazed by it. I thought they were so good. I thought they were some kind of machine if they were making them play that well.
Right.
I was naive too, so
So you were pretty much self-taught, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Picked it up by ear.
Okay.
Fortunately, like a lot of guys back in those days, we would listen to the record. We would go buy the record. We'd hear them on the radio first, and then go buy the record.
Yeah.
Sit down, and inch by inch, we would try to figure out the chords, and that's how we learned to play these songs.
Right.
just from listening to records
Right. Well, can you, speaking of records, can you recall the first 45 or album that you bought?
that I bought. No, I wish I could remember, but I don't
Yeah.
remember. My mom and dad bought a bunch of little, I guess you could call them EPs, but they were not by the original artist, but it sounded like the original artist. But I, kind of wore those out
Yeah.
listening to them. But I don't remember the first one that I bought. I wish I
Okay.
did.
Yeah. Well, can you remember this? I guess it was during the 70s, probably, when they used to put the 45s on the back of cereal boxes. Can,
Yeah,
can
I do
you?
remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
little flimsy things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were flimsy. You had to cut them
And
out with
yeah,
scissors.
and then you put
Yeah.
them on the turntable, and there we go. Wow, wow.
Yes, it would. You try to straighten it out as much as you could, but it didn't
Fun
work.
times.
Yes, yes. That was a unique advertising
Yeah, it
thing
was.
they did. Well, how about, can you remember one of the first concerts that you went to, that you attended?
Well, that's probably, um, I would say it was probably in 1965, I think. Went to a concert in Orlando, and it was the Young Rascals were playing. That was one of them, and the Casinos. I don't, then you can tell me goodbye. They were on the gig, as well as the Knickerbockers with Lies,
Oh, Lies, yes.
and they actually blew the Young Rascals away. They were so tight. They sounded so much like the record, but they were playing live. I was
Right,
maybe 3 or 4 rows in front of the stage.
right.
Awesome band. It was probably the coolest, tightest band I'd ever heard up until that time.
Yes, yes. I remember getting like a double LP. I think it was Pebbles with the
Mhm.
Lies on there, and so many other that I picked up on, from that time period. You know,
We thought when they first came out, we thought they were the Beatles.
they sounded just like it.
Recording.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. They really did. They really did. And I think,
tighter. You know,
and they were tighter. I think that was a part of their appeal, of course. Uh, well, how about mentioning some early musical influences, bands?
I'm sorry. What
Oh,
was that?
oh, that's all right. What were some early musical influences, bands for
Oh,
you? Yeah.
um, the worst thing about getting older is you forget these things. But
Yeah.
I got to say, the Ventures were one. Dwayne Eddy
Oh,
was
well,
another
okay.
one that I
Yes, yes.
to copy and do his thing. I have to think on that for a few minutes.
Okay, we got
But
time.
people like that,
Yeah.
guitarists and musical
Okay.
uh, things that bands that were more instrumental.
Was there a music scene developing there in Orlando when you were a teenager?
There was quite a big music scene. We had a lot of bands in Central Florida at that
Okay.
time. A lot of talent came out of Central Florida. Of course,
Okay.
Tom Petty was from Gainesville, and he was in a little band called the Epics. Well, we used to play frat parties in Gainesville quite a
Yes.
lot, and during our breaks, when we played the frat parties, we would sometimes go next door to hear the other bands and listen to them, and he would do the same. So it was pretty cool because he was several years younger than I am. But he had the courage and whatever it was to just take off to California, which is what we should, in my opinion. But
Yeah, you
we
should
didn't,
have.
we couldn't afford it. We just Nashville was the closest thing to us musically.
Right, right. Well, yeah, Tom, and then he was in a band called Mud Crutch before
You
Tom,
know,
the Heartbreakers too.
after Epics, then it
Yeah,
was
yes. It's interesting to hear all the origins too, going back to, because everybody started somewhere, and these big musicians like him didn't just you know appear on the scene. They had a lot of background, a lot of struggles, a lot of time to develop. So bands that they were into in before that, they got become big. So Well,
Tom was just a young guy, and he was just a little skinny guy, and he really hadn't, with the epics, he hadn't found, in my opinion, he hadn't found his voice yet, or where what he wanted to do. But he was very much attracted to the Byrds, the way the Byrds played,
yeah,
and as well as Dylan. So I guess he kind of combined the two, the Byrds and Dylan together, and he just took off when he
yeah,
got
yeah,
to California.
yeah. He eventually appealed to a really mass audience, and just
Yeah, yeah.
crossing genre bending, as they say.
He
Uh,
was a cool guy, though.
I remember there was a one more thing about him. There was a new wave, a channel. This is like back in late '80s probably, and they play all the alternative new wave stuff. But they would
Yeah,
always play Tom Petty, in there. And I'm thinking, well, he's more rock, but so it appealed to that audience too.
he just hung in there. It was
Yeah,
unreal.
yeah. Well,
Admire him so much.
yes, yes, I do. And sad passing so young too. Well,
Yeah.
well. What was were you in a band prior to We the People?
It was in a band called the Trademarks,
Okay.
and um, two of my friends, Randy Boyte was from Leesburg. He was our keyboard player, and Will Thacker was a good friend of mine. Now he's in Florida. He's from Pennsylvania, but he was in Florida, in Claremont, Florida at the time. It's kind of a long story how we all got together, but it was kind of the ground floor for us. Recording wise, we made our first. I made my first record with them. Um, wasn't the greatest record, but it was pretty cool to go in these studios. We got this the gist of it and how we had to turn our amps down to number two and pretend like we were on stage. It was
Yeah.
just it was difficult, and the record didn't come out too well, but we
Okay.
did it.
Did was it a little intimidating being in
Yeah,
the studio
very
the first time? Okay. Okay.
extremely intimidating.
Yeah, it would be for me.
Nervous. Yeah.
Yes, yes. If I'm not a musician, but if I ever had to the first time, it would be very much, yeah. Yeah. Well, talk about leading up to how the We the People did form. How did you guys get together?
Excuse me. There was a band in Orlando called the Offbeats, and some of the members were Tommy Talton, David Duff, and Tom Wynn, and they were managed by our manager with the trademarks, and his name was Ron Dillman. And Ron just figured, I think he had pretty good ear for music, even though he wasn't a musician himself. I think he was a reporter for the Orlando Sentinel, something like that. But anyway, he got the two bands together, and we decided to form a new band. And I think we were together about a week before we went to Miami Criteria Studios and recorded "My Brother the Man."
The first one. Yeah. Well, you
Several
you
others.
it was you who came up with the name.
Yeah, name of the We the People.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was. I remember was it seemed like it was the first time we got together. We just started thinking we were jamming, and Randy's dad had an auto truck garage, and I guess you could say we were the quintessential garage band because we practiced in that garage all the time. But anyway, I think it was about a day or two after we had gotten together, we decided we needed to come up with a name. We were sitting around in the office in that building, and Randy's dad had the Constitution printed out and framed on the wall. And everybody was throwing out names, and I was throwing out names, and nothing made sense, and they were all sounded kind of ridiculous. And I was just sitting there kind of bored, and I was looking up at it, and I just said, "Be the people." I was trying to read it, and Ron Dillman said, "That's it. That's it. That's what we're going to be." So that's how we began. It wasn't a political thing, but it just happened to be right there in front of me.
Right. Right. Well,
Yeah,
how apropos that is what's happening today. You know,
yeah, yeah.
we won't go off on that, but I found that interesting. How
I, I've had occasion to people would ask me the name of my band back when we were in the 60s, and I would tell them, We the People. I said, but it's not a political thing. It
Yeah.
was part of the Constitution that I read.
Right.
That's
Right.
how we began. I don't want anybody misinterpreting.
No, but I think today I think a lot of people need to read or reread the Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, that answered my question about Ron Dillman. Okay, because he was already managing the other guys.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, tell us why he decided Nashville was the best place to get a record deal.
Us being in Orlando, which is Central Florida, and we hadn't been together all that long before that, and we didn't have a lot of money. And we had the money from gigs. Basically, when we got money from gigs, we would turn it over to Ron. He was our manager, and he handled that, and we relied on him to go get the studio, line up the studio, and get the hotels for us to go to, and things like that. But Nashville was the closest big music scene we could get to with the money that we had. We should have probably gone to New York or most definitely California, but we just couldn't afford to do it. So that's why
Yeah.
we ended up with it. When we walked into the studio, came into Nashville and went up and down Music Row with our reel to reel tapes, the big reels with us, and went from Capitol Records to Columbia to Decca to RCA, you name it. All of the big names on Music Row in the mid 60s were there. They were very blunt, those record people, and we could go into one office and say, "Would you listen to our stuff?" And just about every office had a tape recorder sitting on their desk. Some of them would say, "Yeah, I kind of like your music. It's not too bad, but I think your band stinks."
Okay.
Kind of shot us in the heart sometimes, but we had to learn to toughen up.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
we'd go on down to the next one, and the guy would say, I like your band, but your music, I don't know, where'd you come out? What are you talking? What are you trying to convey here? We don't understand.
Yeah.
So they didn't like the music, but they liked their band. Okay. So we kept going and doing that, getting similar answers until we came to um, an office. Challenge Records, I think, was the name of the, or more publishing.
More publishing.
Anyway, Tony Moon was in there, and we talked to him, and he liked what he heard, and he says, we got to get you into a demo, I mean in the studio, just cut some demos so I can show it to the company.
Right. He liked you, the band,
He
and the
liked,
music. The band and
yeah,
the music.
yeah.
So, and he also he was what appealed to him was the strong songwriting from you and Tommy. Yeah.
That's what he said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
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 We were different. We were given an opportunity to create and do just about anything, write any kind of song we wanted to.
Yeah.
So I would write some weird stuff, and then Tommy would write some weird stuff, and we'd come in to practice and learn these things and take them into the studio and demo them. But in reality, for the most part, except for the fact that My Brother the Man, a song called Mirror of Your Mind, You
Yeah.
Burn Me Down,
Yeah.
those were probably more who we were
Okay.
as a
Right.
real band. But
Right.
then we recorded a song called Love is a Beautiful Thing
Yes.
by
Yeah.
Young Rascals. And that was really who we were because we wanted to be that kind of a band, a white soul,
Right.
rhythm and blues type of band.
That's one of my favorites. I have to say, Young Rascal songs too. What you just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's yes, definitely. Yeah. Well,
Really
yeah.
loved playing that song too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Talk about you being the first, if not the first, long-haired band in Nashville.
Yeah,
What kind of reactions were you getting from people? And
I don't even know where to start. People would yell at us and throw. We would we would be staying in a little motel called the Alamo Plaza Motel, and we would go out and record or play at night and stay out late and come back and sit around the pool in the dark and have people going by yelling at us, calling us names, throwing beer cans at us, and so that kind of thing. They had never seen anything like that other than on Ed Sullivan and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles.
Yeah.
Nobody ever hadn't come in. No one, to my knowledge, came into Nashville at that time with long hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was kind of reaffirmed by a newspaper article that some guy did from Nashville. It was in 1998. Can't remember.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we were pretty weird at that time.
And especially for Nashville, it was traditional country and deep South.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah,
They had a little team club outside of Nashville
yeah.
where sometimes big names would go and play there and have the bands back them up. We were playing this little team club outside of Nashville, and Ray Stevens, I don't know
Oh,
if you remember him, Ahab the Arab and
yeah, yeah.
Guitar Zan.
Right.
He came in and wanted to sing, and of course we didn't know his Ahab the Arab and Tarzan, and he really got kind of angry with us because we didn't know his songs.
You didn't know
We
his
just kind
song.
of stormed out of there.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
Ray, but
he had
our
like
thing.
he had like a lot of those gimmicky, silly
Yeah,
songs, but then he had another side of him that was really beautiful,
yeah,
nice songwriter.
yeah, yeah. He was a good. He was a good musician.
Yeah.
He was a
So he was kind
great
of
singer.
doing both of those things at the
But
same.
it just
Well,
happened to be that we didn't know how to
you
play.
didn't
So
know.
if we weren't, if we had prepared for it, we knew he was coming. I guess we could have come up with something, but he just showed up.
He just showed up.
Yeah,
Wow. And you guys had to play.
yeah.
Oh,
We just
that's
had to
fun.
stand on stage. I'm, here's an end. Is there a chord progression? What is it? I can't remember.
That's the kind of stories I like. Yeah. Well, speaking of your songwriting styles, you and Tommy were at times almost diametrically opposed. You had one style, he had another,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
on the single "Mirror of Your Mind" and the B side, "You Are the Color of Love," couldn't have been more polar opposite.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
We were given this opportunity to come up with, as I said, whatever we wanted to. But
yeah,
sometimes Tommy and I would sit down. We wanted to be. We talked about it. We wanted to be kind of like the Lennon McCartney duo,
yeah,
and we would write songs together. And exactly which songs those were, I can't remember. But we never did go to that extent of putting both of our names on the label. It was
okay,
always written by Tommy or me or David.
yeah, well,
We were, yeah. He was totally different. He had a different style than I did.
yeah,
He was, and quite honestly, he was a better guitarist. He, especially in his later days, he went on to play with the Allman Brothers
yeah, yeah,
and a few other big names. I was one of those. I call myself a percussion guitarist because I just beat on the strings, kind of like the Kinks. And you
yes,
really got me. That was my type of stuff.
yeah.
I broke a lot of strings by doing it. I was a guitar player. I could
Yeah,
play, and I was kept up with the times, and
yeah,
um, I think I was in tune with the times with what I
yeah,
was playing. But Tommy developed into his own style and became better and better and better. He really became great.
yeah.
I
Well,
wish you
well,
were here to hear what I had to say.
right, right, right. Well, going back to that single, I prefer, and I've always liked the more mellow songs, the more ballads, and "You Are the Color of Love" is right up my alley. So,
Well,
and
thank you for that.
I like
Appreciate it.
the sound of your of the guitar on it as well. And it's not just because I'm talking to you that I'm saying that either. I do
My
like.
grandson tells me that too. So
Oh, okay, all right.
he likes that song. Him and his girlfriend
Yes,
told
yes.
me that that was their favorite song. So,
Oh, see, there you go. There you go. So I think for a well-rounded band, that's what it takes. A little bit of the hard driving stuff, and then the more mellow, you know,
well,
songs.
one thing I could say about that, since you're talking about the
Sure.
differences between the two of us, we used to play in the Orlando Youth Center quite a
Yeah.
lot. as most bands did back in those days. But I had somebody tell me, or us, at one time, they would be standing outside of the youth center and we'd be playing inside and we would go from one song to the next. And he said, I thought there were several bands playing in there because each song was so different.
Yeah.
And which I thought that was kind of amusing. I never thought about it, but I guess with Tommy's lead style as opposed to my lead style and um, my melodic ballad type stuff and compared to his wild and crazy, I guess it probably did sound a little bit like several bands.
Yeah. But you guys were not you weren't one trick pony, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
you had the versatility to play the different stuff.
And David too. We would switch instruments. I would play bass sometimes, and Tommy would play bass. David would play bass and play rhythm guitar. We were just back and forth.
Yeah.
So that kind of added a little bit more depth to us. Yes.
Yes, it did. Yeah. Well, I was going to say also there would be more recording sessions in Nashville, and some were backed by Nashville session players.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was it? How was it working with some of those
You
veterans?
know, this is a strange thing about recording, and it's especially today, but even back then, they could bring in strings behind you,
Yeah.
and later you can lay down the original track, and then they could bring in a string combo, or what do you call them, the
Yeah.
small,
Uh-huh.
and then double their sound, their tracks, and make it sound like a huge orchestra.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't recall ever playing with any of those guys. They added something in the background. They did it on top of what we did.
Okay. Okay. All right. Later on is
Yeah.
okay. All right. Yeah, I had a comment coming up on one of the singles. Exactly that, what you were just talking about. In September 66, the third single, He Doesn't Go About It Right.
Mm.
Some DJs or record stations must have flipped it over and played You Burn Me Up and Down,
Yeah.
you know, because that one became a well-known track by the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It amazes me. Some 60 years later, kids over in Europe
Right. Right.
love that song and have recorded it, re-recorded it for themselves. And
Right.
I can't even tell you how many kind of lost track, but it's just really cool knowing that these kids today, everybody's a kid to me now, but kids in their 20s, 30s, and 40s
Yep.
still playing that stuff 60 years later. And who in a million years I wouldn't have
you're you're saying the same thing I get from so many of these interviews. It's
believed
like,
in.
guys, I can't believe it after all this time, you know, and hearing about the resurgence of interest and bands, and of course
Yeah.
talk about some of the compilations. But it did help that you know, like a track like that was included on various artist compilations. You know, got more mileage that way, like Mirror of Your Mind. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, then the but it's got to be fascinating hearing from people all over the world like that. The
But those two songs, "Mirror of Your Mind" and "You Burn Me Up and Down," I think they were recorded in a studio in Tampa. And can't remember the name of the studio, but it was a smaller studio, and we were kind of allowed to turn our amps up a little bit more, and we had more of the feel of being on stage. And got a little wild and hairy in those studios, and the engineers kept telling us to turn it down, and we just ignored them and just kept on going. Got a little bit wild in the reverb, and would
yeah, yeah,
echo would back out, get too close to the amplifier and get feedback out of my amp, and
yeah.
that guitar behind me there is what I used to play with it.
Oh, right there. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a Gretsch Country Gentleman.
Oh, I like the Gretsch. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that. I like the look and the sound that you get from it. Yeah, there you go.
guitar. Yeah.
Wow. So how many years? How old is it?
That one is a 19. I'm not sure. You
All right. All right. That's all right.
really don't know because I bought it at a music store in Orlando
Okay.
back in '64. So it may be 59 or something like that.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, the fourth single released in late '66 was In the Past at the B-side St. John's Shop. Um, Now tell me the interesting story about the locally made instrument used in the recording.
Uh, Say locally made. It was made by a friend of mine
Uh-huh.
from Leesburg. He
Okay.
sold me that instrument. It was made by his grandfather in Waukegan, Ohio,
Oh,
I
okay.
think, and back in the probably in the 40s. And it was in his attic, and I asked him if he would sell it, and he said, "Yeah." And he gave him $5 for it. So, and speaking of, it was first of all, when I got it, I tried to get some strings for it, and I couldn't find any strings that were long enough for it. So I had to get two sets of banjo strings, four string banjo strings, and I called it an octochord because it had
Yeah,
8 strings.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
This is it.
good for you. I'm glad you had it there to show. There it is.
That's that's the way it was set up. When I,
Okay.
it's exactly in the same condition that it was in 1966. And I bought, it had a hole cut in it,
Yeah.
and I bought that pickup
Okay. Yeah.
and stuck it in there and made it work and plugged it into my big amp.
Yeah.
I think we had two 15-inch speakers with a bandmaster head, and I'd run through a Fender reverb, and that's how the sound came out
And
in
you
the past.
and you got it there. Have you played
Yep.
it in recent times? Have you played it?
Um, it's got 4 strings on it, but it's just it's out of tune,
Okay.
and it
Okay.
doesn't sound like what it
What
did on the
what it
record.
did.
It
Okay.
was
Wow. Thank you for. I'm glad it was there. Thank you for showing that. Yeah.
pretty awesome. I was going to try to. I don't know. There's a label in there. Probably
Oh,
can't see it.
inside there. I don't know. Oh, it looks like something's coming through. It's a lot of glare with the light, but
It's an old label, and I'm thinking it's probably
I
as
can
soon
see
as
it. I can't decipher it though.
the
I can't.
Aldrich
Okay.
Radio.
Oh, okay.
Let's see, the Aldrich Radio Company in Waukegan, Ohio.
Okay.
And I'm
Wow.
assuming it was probably the 40s when he
Yeah.
handmade these things. I understood that he only made about 50 of them.
Yeah.
And
Wow. Wouldn't that be something if you
I've
had
got a
the
whole,
only remaining one? Wouldn't that be something?
probably.
You know, and I
Tony
think,
Moon, when I left We the People, he offered me $75
oh, yeah.
to do that. It's kind of part of my
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
My
Well,
granddaughters will get it one of these days.
oh, that's the best way. Pass it down. Yeah. Well, some people compared the sound to like a sitar, a little bit like that.
What was the idea we were trying? Because the sitar with the Beatles had just come out
Yeah.
when I found this instrument, and we thought that, well, let's see what we could do with it. And I did 2 songs with that. That was In the Past, and another one is Half of Wednesday. We call it Half of Wednesday. Um, that was all, and I think I may have played it 3 times on stage, but it was very intense,
Okay.
and I had just perspiration. I had to
Oh,
sit down on the stool to play this thing, and my fingers were pretty fast in those days, but a lot slower these days.
yes.
Don't ask me to play it.
No. Well,
Embarrass myself.
well, going forwarding to the fourth single in late '66. Again, I we just talked about brought it up in the past. St. John's Shop. Now, this is what we kind of hit on earlier about the session musicians coming in after. Um, the two versions of St. John's Shop. One that's pretty bare, and then the second one with the strings and more orchestration. Yeah, yeah,
They came in and topped and added another track on top of
right.
ours, so we weren't there when they added that.
We did that.
But I
Okay.
love the sound of it. It was just so English sounding, I guess, Baroque.
Yes,
I don't know.
yes, I think so
It's
too. Which version do you prefer?
I love the string part.
Yeah,
String
I do
version,
too.
crazy.
I do too. that speaks to me. I like orchestration,
And
strings.
another one we did called Color of Love.
Yeah,
We had the strings on top of that, which was pretty nice. I liked it. It was a pretty simple song, but it was a song, another weird song I wrote about a guy falling in love with a nun.
yeah, yeah.
And we recorded it, and they asked me the name of the song. I said, Nun.
Yeah.
They said, Nun. I said, yeah, it was None. He said, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't do that. So they
Yeah.
changed the name of my
Oh,
song
did they
to Love Wears Black. So,
guys playing live? You even had a little brush with female fan frenzy.
oh, yeah.
The females, yeah. It
It
wasn't
was,
as big as the Beatles, I'm sure, but yeah, it
yeah.
was.
We played in Paducah, Kentucky. I'm trying to go back, and
Yeah,
we played in so many places. I'm trying to pick it out, but I'm thinking it was Paducah, Kentucky, which was just north of Nashville, not too far. Well, we're up there, and we're out in a parking lot, and we were on the back of a flatbed pick semi truck flatbed, and there were, oh God, the whole parking lot was full of people. There were girls would line up in front of the down right in front of us and reaching out and trying to touch us and screaming, and I would look at David, and David would look at me, and David was, you know, can you believe this is happening? To them, we were probably from England because they really didn't know who we were.
yeah,
It heard us on the radio,
right.
but it was pretty extraordinary, you
Yeah.
know. Teenage teenage guys and 19, and they were pretty cute too. I
Right.
remember that.
Right. I remember
Most of them were.
one guy I talked to not long ago was saying like they were very young. He was 15, 16. He said, I don't even have a girlfriend, but then there's all these girls, rushing the stage.
Yeah,
And he said, wow, how weird is that,
yeah.
you know?
It was it was exciting, really was.
Yeah,
So much happened that I've forgotten, but I remember the fun and the excitement
yeah,
of the whole thing. And for me, with We the People, it began in 1966 and ended in probably mid 1967.
yeah,
So all of this stuff happened within a year and a half
yeah,
for me and my part of it. After I left, the guys went on to, I think they went on to Nashville and got another couple other players that played with them, but it kind of fizzled out after a while.
yeah, yeah. And
Really, really good after I left.
as far as the band goes, before you left, you did get some regional action in the southeast, but national exposure and success was not to be.
Of
Yeah,
course, as I had mentioned earlier, I was sitting here before this interview watching Gene Autry on an old
yeah,
Western on my TV, and brought up the fact that Gene Autry had owned Challenge Records, the record company that we were on in Nashville.
yeah,
Which Gene was a big hero, but he was a big country music star, and I don't think he quite understood the long hair, if you know what I mean, and the Beatles and all this. So he didn't. The company didn't push us very hard. They released a bunch of our stuff in the Midwest or the breadbasket
yeah,
area, and we just didn't take off. It got on. I think it. We got a lot of airplay in those areas, like in Nebraska,
yeah,
but didn't go any further than that. But I'll learn later on that some of our records made it out to California and also made it up to New York. And, and people were listening to this stuff. And until Bob Irwin with
yeah,
Sundazed music come along and found all of our master tapes and put them together into albums, and
yes,
we became a little more fame involved.
yes. Bob has done a great job.
I
That
have
label.
lot to be thankful for Bob.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, if the record label can't pigeonhole you into one category or another to try
Yeah,
to sell you, yeah, they oftentimes don't. Yeah, you're like you just said, you know. And unfortunately, you couldn't be. I mean, you were more versatile. You didn't fit into just one specific, you weren't just a garage rock band,
Yeah, we were just trying to come up with different sounds so somebody would listen to us.
Right, right.
Then when they listened to us, they said, well, we can't figure out who you are, so we're not going to push you.
See, that's it.
We don't know what to do with you. It was kind of
Right.
like I was talking to my wife. It was kind of like the movie about Queen. I don't know
Yeah.
if you ever saw the movie where
Oh, yes, yes.
Wayne, Mike Myers was playing
Yes.
the record guy behind the desk.
Oh, right,
He was a total jerk, and that's the way they were back in those days.
right,
They
right,
just didn't understand where we were coming from.
right, right. Yeah, I always had a problem with that. It shouldn't be left up to the big executives. It should be the band. It should be left in the bands.
And the publishers and the producers and people who, I don't know, that was all about money for them.
Yes, yeah,
We couldn't
exactly.
make $1 million. If he couldn't make $1 million or a lot of money on it, then no
Right,
matter how good you were, he tossed you aside.
right, right,
Excuse
exactly.
me while I get a sip.
Sure. I've heard that story over and over. Um, when was it that you did leave the band, and why?
That was during the Civil War, the Vietnam War.
That's going back a ways.
Um, it was a Vietnam area, and regardless of what anybody says, nobody wanted to go to Vietnam.
Right.
It's not a patriotic thing. Nobody wanted to go. We were teenagers.
Yeah.
We didn't want to go shoot and kill people, and which was pretty much what the protest was in Kent, Ohio, when they shot and killed a student. My wife was about 10, 15 minutes from Kent. She used to go there all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, the draft was breathing down my neck. And long story short, I moved from when I got my notice to go take my physical in Leesburg. I moved to Nashville and had it forwarded up there. Took about 2 or 3 months. When I got up there, I turned around and moved back to Leesburg and had it forwarded back to Leesburg. And it took about another 2 or 3 months. So they got tired of that. The military got tired of chasing me, and so they threatened me after that. I got a notice, either show up or coming to get you. So at that point, I was pretty nerve wracked. It was pretty nerve wracking, and we were getting nowhere with the band at the time, and so I just decided if I go back to college, I can get a deferment.
Right.
That's what I did. That was my reason.
Yeah. Well, Rick Brown, who I talked to yesterday, in the Misunderstood, they were in England. John Peel, managed them and moved them, relocated them from California to England. Well, he was over there when he got his notice, and he thought, well, that should make a difference. I'm not even in the U.S. Oh no, it didn't make any difference.
No.
So he had to try. He did things to try to avoid run from it. Yeah, yeah. So
it's not a patriotic thing, in my opinion. It's just the fact that we were young guys, and none of us were gun people.
Yeah, yeah.
You stick a gun in our hands and tell us to go kill those guys over.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it in my heart, in my mind.
No.
Couldn't do it.
Especially for a musician, I think it would be even more difficult.
Yeah, actually, they did. Eventually, I dropped out of college, and they did send me a notice, come take my physical.
Yeah.
So I did go to Jacksonville, and while they're taking the physical, we had a list of stuff we had to check what was wrong with it. If you ever had back trouble or this or that, and I checked back trouble because my lower back was aching, and I didn't think anything of it. But they brought me back and did an X-ray on my lower vertebrae were joined together, and they turned me down.
Oh,
4F after all of that.
After all of that.
Left the band and went back to college. But it's okay. I said to the sergeant, I said, you mean I can't get in the Marines, the Army, the Navy, nobody? He said, I'm sorry, son. It's a damn shame that somebody wants to get in as bad as you do, and I can't let you. And I'm just thinking, I walked out the door and
Yeah, exactly. Wish you had thought of that earlier.
Oh
Earlier.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Jeez. And I
Oh,
didn't even know about the issue. I knew my back was a problem because I had a little MG midget at the time, which was just set about that high off the ground.
yeah,
And it was starting to bother my lower back.
yeah,
And never went to the doctor for it.
yeah.
And I guess you could say I lucked out. If I had gone, I don't think I would have come back. I
Okay.
really believe that I
Well,
probably would have been shot
yeah, yeah.
running.
Right, right. Yeah, that would have been me. Yeah, I know if I was back during those times, I would have probably headed for Canada or something. I don't know. I
Part
tried.
of the plan too. I thought about that.
Yeah, my
It
wife,
just
I
was
think,
not. It was a crazy, no reason war,
yeah, exactly,
political war.
exactly,
And I have
exactly.
a lot of friends that didn't come back. I've got some friends now that I really admire and respect that did come back, that have a lot of mental issues. And
PTSD, yeah, and then yeah, yeah. I know it stayed with them and it stays with them for a long
yeah,
time. Maybe their whole rest of their life too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
right.
I can't imagine that. I can't fathom that. Well, back to find it humorous. You had already left the band, but I find it humorous in a way that the band then signed with RCA.
Yeah,
And I did an interview not long ago with a guy who said when his band signed with RCA, it sounded the death knell for the band. He said because the company had so many other businesses they were dealing with, under
probably it. Yeah.
under its umbrella, that they didn't focus on the music side really, And
David Duff wrote a song called "Ain't Gonna Find Nobody." I don't know if you heard that one.
yes, yes,
Poems, and I was not on that album. I mean, on that song. That was after I left, but they had developed in a really tight, um, I'm going to say, blue-eyed soul type
yeah,
of sound. It was very cool rhythm and blues stuff, and they were on RCA, but just couldn't get it going.
yeah,
Felt bad about it.
yeah. I, I had
I don't
heard
know.
a story about RCA. Well,
I have
interesting.
another story too. How our stuff got into Europe.
Oh, well, go ahead. Go ahead.
A lot of this is from my memory, but in '66 we had recorded a lot of master tapes, and Tony Moon had given worked for Barmore Music, and also somehow was connected with Challenge Records. They had given some tapes to a French guy that whose mother worked for RCA in Paris. So he had given these tapes to Jean-Marc Aletti was the guy's name, and his mother, I understood, managed or was on or had something to do with RCA in Paris, France. So from over there, there was a French duo that recorded one of my songs. There was a girl by the name of Delphine who took
Delphine. Yes,
in
yes.
the past and changed the words to it and recorded it and got pretty big. She was from Belgium, possibly. And from there, it just kind of went on all through Europe. And people knew about us over there. And I had no idea. We were bigger over there than we were here. And
Right.
we didn't know it because we had no internet. And
Yeah.
to make a long distance call for 3 minutes to Europe was to France was like $100.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Expensive.
there was no newspapers, no way for us to find out
Yeah.
that stuff. But I could be angry, but I'm not. I think it's if it hadn't been for that, I get no royalties from it. But if it hadn't been for that, nobody would over there would have known it.
That's
And,
right. That's right. You know,
and actually, Delphine's version of it, I can't even pronounce the title, but most people know. It was an in the past track that she used from in the past. And the actual track she sang over was us, we the
but
people,
was you playing?
our track
Yeah.
playing behind her.
Uh,
And they overdubbed her voice on top of our track.
right. Right. Wow. And
Kind
never,
of cool.
never, it's cool, but never got your
I
permission.
never found out about it until
Yeah.
25 or 30 years later,
Right, right,
till the internet came out.
right. And then it came out. Yeah. Wow. One thing
Pretty
is
awesome.
fascinating out of doing these is where you become popular like that, that you find out more so in another country than your own, and
Yeah.
just, things like that happen. Yeah,
I
it's
think those kids over there are more in tune to music than we are here.
yeah, yeah, right, right. And I not long ago I did talk to one of the Ventures. You mentioned Ventures,
Yeah.
the guitarist that came on later on, and we were talking about the history of the Ventures. He said the Japanese just ate it up.
Yeah.
He said
I
he
remember.
right. They are early Ventures were over there in the '63 playing live, and to this day there are so many Venture cover bands over there. Like
Yeah.
the Tokyo Ventures, the this
I've
city Venture.
heard
Yeah,
them on YouTube. It's
yeah, right,
phenomenal.
right. And there's no I mean what am I trying to say? Language barrier because it's instrumental. So,
Mhm.
they can do that. Yeah. Well, interesting. Tommy went on to become, I've got something here to show you, become a member of this band.
Cowboy,
Oh
yes.
boy. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I picked, I picked this CD up.
That's right. I've got
Oh, do
that
you have
CD.
this? Do you have this? Okay. Yeah.
Got that CD.
It's a
He
nice,
he sent me a bunch of stuff when he was over in Luxembourg. He was living over there, um, and he sent me a bunch of CDs. They were not labeled. He just his handwriting on them, telling me what song. The Rebelizers. I think he had a band there in Luxembourg, a little band called the Rebelizers, and they were great in my opinion.
yeah.
And then there was stuff that Tommy did that recorded with. I had no idea that he was playing with the Allman Brothers.
Allman Brothers, right?
Just kind of went on with my life, trying to get my normal life back.
Right, right.
And he just never stopped. He just kept going. He
Yeah.
played with oh man, he, his best friend. He played with the Cowboy. What's his name?
I can find that here. Was it, was it, let's see who else is in
I can't
this
think
band.
of his name
Uh,
offhand.
Scott Boyer.
Scott Boyer. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Scott died.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm still talking to Greg, my wife. You want to come over?
You
Come
does
say
she,
hi.
does she want a cameo? Cameo appearance.
Whoops,
Hello. Hello. Nice to meet you.
tripped over my microphone.
she got she got yeah, you better go. We don't want to have to pay you too much for that cameo.
Sorry,
that's,
we're cool.
that's quite all right. That's quite all right. Yeah, track off of here is probably my favorite. Josephine Beyond Compare.
Yeah,
That was one of Tommy's. That's probably my favorite. I really like that one. Just want to mention, throw that in there.
they were kind of came on along with the country rock
Yes,
thing that began.
yes,
I had in mind some of the names of the band. Rick Nelson was kind of
yes. You're
around
right.
that
Right.
time
I
with
like
his.
his stuff from that time period. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
what was the name of his band? Dang it.
Yeah, Rick Nelson and the Canyon Band. The
Stone
Stone.
Canyon Band. Yeah, I
There we go.
wanted to say the Stone Ponies, but that was Linda Ronstadt.
Linda Ronstadt. Yeah. So yeah, he was. And yeah, and sad how he died. It was what, New Year's concert. He was coming in, was Dallas too.
Yeah,
Coming into
was that
Dallas.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Rick Nelson. Wow.
That was a heartbreaker. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he was such a big teen idol back in those days. Had
Oh,
such a smooth voice.
oh, he did. He
He
did.
was just the ultimate of cool back
Right.
in when I was a kid.
Yeah. I'll tell you one too. Jim Croce, when he passed away, he was another one. What a songwriter. What a
Yeah,
singer. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Well, you did. I want to mention you did write the minor hit "Follow the Yellow Brick Road" for the Wizard of Oz movie. You wrote.
Actually, wasn't for the Wizard movie, but
You're not
I,
that old. You're not
huh?
that.
I uh,
That's,
I had watched. I
sorry.
had left the band at
Yeah.
that time. It was
Yeah.
after I'd left the band, and Tony Moon kept telling me to send him stuff as a writer.
Yeah.
So I had a little reel-to-reel tape recorder. This is before cassettes, I think.
Yeah.
And I wrote the song, Yellow Brick Road. I'd watched Wizard of Oz, and it was
You
kind of a
really,
bubblegum type of
yeah,
song,
right,
or
right.
bubblegum, kind of a commercial sort of thing. Happy-go-lucky, bouncy, bouncy song, you know.
Yeah.
And about that time, um, Elton John came out with Yellow Brick Road.
Yellow Brick Road. Okay.
And Tony was trying to push my version of it because he liked it.
Yeah.
And he got the Lemonade Charade, which is a big
Great.
band in Nashville at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And they recorded it. And honestly, I think it sounded so much like me playing it. I was pretty enthralled. I said, "Are you sure this is the same guy? I thought it sounds like
Yeah.
me." And he said, "No, they were great." And I'd heard a lot of good things about them.
Yeah.
They were a great band, from what I understand. Um, it was no big deal, but it was still a lot of fun. You know,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
was just doing it for fun.
I threw that in there for just to interject some humor into it when I said you wrote it for Wizard of Oz. I wanted to see your
Yeah,
reaction. I wanted to see that.
I wish
You,
somebody did a video on it and put my song over the top of a scene or two from Wizard of Oz, so it looked like it was a part of the
okay.
movie
Oh, is that right?
on
Is that
YouTube, actually.
wow? Do you remember the thing going around for a while? It's been a few years about Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon
Hmm.
and the Wizard of Oz. Do you
Yeah,
remember that? Okay. And did you ever try that to sync them up?
no,
Sync them up? Yeah,
no,
we got together one time, my friends, and it's eerie. It really was. How
it was
yeah, and the songs that they had, how it would just the movie was kind of reflective of that. At the and where a song would end,
I think I saw that.
a new scene would start up. And you talking to Roger uh, and David, they said no, there was no intent, at all to do that. But it's very interesting, how
It
somebody
is.
must have been doing that. Hey, let's try watching this, Wizard of Oz at the same time and listening to Pink Floyd, probably on some,
See a
mind
lot of this
altering.
stuff nowadays. Yeah.
Oh yeah, mind altering substances doing it probably. Yeah. Well, um, you mentioned now was that the French label was Eva. Eva was the label that they released. It wasn't an official release,
No, it was.
like an
I don't
acetate.
know how that came about. Quite honestly, I think they probably got the records maybe that we had made and somehow recorded, used those records on because the quality wasn't all that great.
Right, right.
I
It
think it
was
came out in 1983. Is when I
yes, it was
first
in
found
the
out about it.
it was in the 80s and it was on vinyl. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was the acetates, I believe. Declaration, but they did call it Declaration of
Yeah,
Independence.
I've got a couple of copies of that actually.
Oh, okay, okay.
Somebody sent me one of them. I don't remember who it was.
Is that right? Well,
Yeah, that was kind of the beginning, really, in Europe. People found out about the band through that LP.
yeah, yeah. Well, Collectables released its own Declaration of Independence, a CD compilation in 1993, about 10 years later. Yeah, that they did that.
This stuff is people releasing stuff all over the place, and some of our stuff. I don't really know how that happens. I know that Sony bought out the company's Challenge, and if I'm not mistaken, and they own it. So anybody that wants to record it has to get permission
Okay.
from Sony to do it. So legally,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, people have said, why don't you ought to fight this? You ought to get a lawyer and try to fight this stuff. But the problem is getting an attorney, especially in Europe,
yeah,
to
yeah.
fight something like this that is not a huge hit.
Right,
There's bits and pieces of our songs all over Europe that
right,
weren't huge hits.
right,
So it cost me more for an attorney than it would be anything else. So I'm just backed up thinking, just be proud. And that's the way I
right,
feel. I'm just proud that somebody wanted to do it so
right.
many years later, you know? just not many people can say that, that they've
No,
had all your songs recorded and all over the world.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Good Lord, man.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
thankful.
exactly. And you would probably be crushed like a little bug because they would have all the big attorneys on their side, all the money. It's similar to what was sad, Yes, the band Yes, and all their album covers, Roger Dean. You're familiar with Roger Dean doing the album covers. Well, remember when the movie Avatar came out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, that is Roger Dean. They stole it. They
Really?
stole the idea. Well, they did. They don't admit it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
The animators for the movie Avatar would never admit it. And they went to court over it. Roger Dean did sue, but he lost. He lost. I mean, if you go back and look, because he's the little guy,
It's
right?
a shame. Yeah.
Right. If you go back and if you just look at the covers and then look at the movie, it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
obvious they stole those.
I wouldn't have stood a chance.
Yeah,
This,
that's the
I'm a
thing.
realist. I know.
That's the
But
thing.
I do get an occasional royalty from Airplay and
Okay.
Sirius because Tom Petty had remembered us as being one of the bands in Gainesville, and he plays several of our songs on his recorded uh,
Oh,
radio
okay.
station. You hear on Tom Petty's Treasure, I think is the name of it.
Okay. And he
So every time he plays one of our songs, I get a little bit of, they'll send me every quarterly enough money to fill up my gas tank. Maybe
I was gonna say, right.
sometimes I get a $300 check or something like
You can go out to eat
6 years later, and I got to thank Tom for it. Lord, man.
pay your utility bill. Yeah,
Yeah.
thing like that. Yeah, I know. It's something. Yeah, like you said, it is. It is. At least you're acknowledged there. But
I'm not a rock and roll star, but Lord, man, this is so cool. How can I ask for anything more?
right, right, and that's what I like to do this. And I don't know. It's not really unearthing you guys because you're already have a resurgence, and years and decades later, a lot of times,
Well,
your younger fans finding out about you and discovering you. So, but it's just kind of highlighting. I like to do that. And I like to dig deep. I think I told you that before. I don't just like surface level, what's top 40, what's commercial. Never been into that. I always like to dig a little deeper and find these undiscovered gems and try to reach out and talk to the guys
it's
that are still around,
awesome,
the guys that are
awesome.
still,
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome what you're doing. I think it's just great. And
Well, I
all these
appreciate,
people that you've talked to, and um, we're not going to be around forever.
right,
Uh,
right. Well, this is a good way for posterity, to get it documented, and even those written interviews the same way.
mhm.
It's there, and then people generations from now, can read it and watch it, and pass it down to your kids, your grandkids, friends.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what I like
This
about it.
basically, I'm doing this because of my grandkids. I want them to kind of have a little clue of who I was.
Right, right. Exactly. Yeah. When we talked
I
the other
thank
day?
you for it.
Oh, well, I appreciate it, Wayne. It's no problem. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. I get so much out of it too. Making that connection with you guys, and most musicians, this. I mean, if you're in it for the right reason, you're good souls. You're good spirits. You do have that spiritual side. It comes out in the music. You're doing it for the right reasons. And I'm not a musician,
Thank you.
but I think I have the heart of a musician. Maybe I should have pursued
Yeah,
that when I was
that's
younger.
that's great. I mean, if you can appreciate it,
Oh, I do, and I have a good ear. I do have a good ear, for it. And well, it's
yeah,
anything that you do. If you do long enough, you're going to get good at it.
yeah, yeah.
So I've collected so much over decades and decades that you're going to start honing that taste. Is going to, you know,
I think the first band I played in was in 1963, and I was probably before I got my driver's license. I was playing with a little band. Yeah, I played for probably a period of close to 10 years, and that was about it on the road.
yeah.
I have a lot of great memories from those times.
Oh, I bet you do.
I could keep you on here for a couple more hours.
We can make it an epic
Mhm.
chat. You
Give
know,
you some of the strange things that's happened.
my cousins in San Antonio, we used to go down there quite a bit, and we were preteens, but we had a pretty mean band with our tennis rackets,
Air
yeah,
guitar, the
right.
beginnings of air guitar.
The very beginnings of air guitar.
That
Yeah,
was fun too, wasn't
it was fun. We used to listen to the Monkees is what we would listen to,
it?
and you just pretending we're playing and say, yeah, those were the days. Those were the days. Well, I did want to mention on the Sunday's release, and I told you the Mirror of Our Minds. I really like that
Hmm.
cover. I like that the
Like
colors,
this,
the green, and it's
yeah,
really vibrant. Yeah, I like that.
yeah. That "Mirror of Mine" was Tommy's song, and he could be very melodic in his stuff, some of his things, but he would get off in a little bit of psychedelia occasionally, and but stuff like this, "Mirror of Your Mind" and "You Burn Me Up and Down," it was just those songs that just kind of made you want to let go and as a guitar player, as a band, and just get freaky. It was sort of pre-psychedelic era
Right. Yes.
we were doing at that
Yeah.
time. The
Yeah.
psychedelic area came in right after us, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess we were one of the bands of the pre-psychedelic era.
Yeah. Yeah. What I
Starting to get into it a little bit with the
Yeah.
In the Past and Mirror of Your Mind, You Burn Me Up and Down. It was out there back in
Yeah.
those days. It was a little, in my opinion, and I've had people tell me we were probably a little bit ahead of our time. At the,
I think so. I think
I
so.
don't know, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's true, but it sure felt like it.
You
Never
like
heard anybody else play it.
right, right. Well, it's. I just want to say it's interesting that the British originally were influenced by our R&B.
Yeah,
We're here, right? Before there were any rock
I,
bands there, right,
yeah,
right. A lot of the black artists, things like that, and then they took that and they turned it into something special, and then we were influenced by that,
made us
like
listen to our own music. That's what
right,
it did.
right, right, right.
Yep.
So I thought that was very interesting how that happened like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
good old days.
yes, the good old days. I mean, sometimes it's for the times we're going through. We won't get into that, but it's good to. That's where I like to kind of settle into sometimes. Is
Yeah,
those.
this is kind of nice to get all that politics stuff off my mind. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
my kids not to worry about it, just to hang in there and try to
Yeah.
make the changes that you can make and get us out of this hole.
Right. And I think that's another thing. Going back to the music, I think that's why music is so important, especially during these times, because it does have that healing quality. You know,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and I think that it can and it will, and so I just again that's part of I think I didn't when I started doing this it was before the election and all that, but now I see it more and more. It's like, okay, maybe this is what I'm meant to do,
Great. And
and just to give that back. Yeah. Yeah.
when I want to get out of that depression, the political depression that I find myself in, I go get in my car and turn on Sirius and put on Tom Petty's
Yeah.
Buried Treasure on, crank it up, and I'm forgetting about everything. And it just
There you go.
takes me
There you
back
go. That's
in
that's
the
it.
saddle again.
Right back on the saddle. See, that's
Mm,
it. And that's what I do too. I like to go and listen to because it does take me away. I
mm.
remember, I think it's a Snoopy Charlie Brown cartoon. You've probably seen it, right? The one where it
Yeah,
says where
I remember. I thought you were
Linus
going to
goes,
mention the Royal Guardsman.
oh no, not that. Well, that's another
Yeah.
thing. But the Linus, it's a cartoon probably from back in the Charles Schultz back in the '60s, I would say, and
Yeah.
it shows Linus talking to Lucy, and he says, whenever I'm feeling down, whenever I'm feeling depressed, I go out and buy some records, and it always makes me feel better. You know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I said,
Simple,
yeah, yeah,
simple
it
but
does.
true.
It does. I think music is the highest art form. I like reading. I like art, museums and things like that. but I think art is, it's, I mean, music itself is the highest art form. I really do. I always have been. And it does have that,
Agree with you.
yeah, it heals and it soothes the savage beast too, which, yeah,
Well, yeah, I don't understand all the music, everything, but I know that when I was playing in the band, my left hand never knew really what my right hand was going to do, and vice versa, and so it just kind of came naturally. But it was like a feeling of euphoria when you get on stage and you're sitting there in front of a couple of thousand people, and they're
right,
all looking at you and seeing
right.
if you're going to make a mistake.
See,
Made a
exactly.
lot of mistakes, but
but you made that immediate connection with the audience. See,
yeah, yeah,
you
that
know,
was so much. That was incredible.
you know, and
Missed that when I got out of the band. Yeah,
and see, today we're so isolated. That we're not connecting with people, and I
yeah,
guess for me, that's what feeds me about doing these. Connecting with you musicians. And so many people today are just, they just keep to themselves, and there's no socializing and things like that. So
yeah. It's kind of sad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Another one. I'll say this, and we can we can go. But the one where you may have seen it going
I'm
around
fine. I got plenty of time.
you see it going around the internet, the animated one, I think it is, or it looks like AI maybe, but it shows back in the '70s at a pub or a restaurant, a bar. People, there were different tables, and there's three or four to a table. During the '70s, and they're all interacting, they're all talking.
Mm,
And it shows today, one per table, looking at their phone or their handheld device. Yeah,
yeah, even now, if I go out
yeah,
to a restaurant, I see that I'm just sitting there shaking it.
yeah.
Talk to her.
Right, right,
You don't have to talk,
right.
phone to phone
Right.
or them or whoever they may be. I don't understand that. But
Yeah.
I had a lot of great experiences with a band that I was in called the Coachman.
Okay.
That was out of Eustis, Florida. That was probably 1963, 64. We played, it was a four-piece band. We played a lot of James Brown stuff, soul music type of stuff. And I had some awesome friends. Those guys that were in the band were great. And then I left them to go with a little better band called the Trademarks.
Yeah.
Because part of the Trademarks was part of, at that time, from a band called the Nation Rocking Shadows. And I think three members of the Nation Rocking Shadows left that band and hooked up with me and Randy Boyte, which became the Trademarks.
Yeah.
Um, after the Trademarks was We the People. After I left We the People, I started playing with, or I started helping out a little group called the Color Corporation.
Oh,
Spelled
okay.
with a K,
Okay.
both color with a K and corporation with a K. But they were just a bunch of young guys from Leesburg who were they wanted to make a record so they could use it for promotion. I started, I almost had to teach each one of them how to play their instrument better because
Okay.
they were all new at it.
Yeah.
And I had a little experience before them. And my good friend Mike Stegall that I just lost, we all just lost and passed away last week, I think it was. But he was a great showman, a great front man. And became a party band. I played at the University of Florida frat parties, and it was just had more fun with that band than I had with any other band that I played with. To
Really.
be honest with you, yeah, it was. Mike would just be able to walk out and get the audience and take them in, and they were just immediately. It was like a magnet. Some
Yeah.
people have that personality. It's the
Yeah.
kind of personality Mike had. And he would say, wait a minute, I want you guys to listen to me. He says, we have one of the Doors backstage who's going to come out and join us. And the crowd went nuts,
Yeah.
screaming. They couldn't believe it. This was in Ocala, Florida. And he kept playing that up. And and got a drum roll and introduced. Curtain went back, and a couple of guys in the band had brought out a door. It was leaning up against the wall in the back
The
of the
door.
stage,
One
and
of the
he
doors.
came out there and set it up in front of a microphone, and the crowd just went, "Oh man!" You could hear cussing a little bit, and
Oh, I bet.
it's
I
a
bet you
great
could.
letdown after all that big buildup. And
One
but
one of the
Mike brought
doors.
him back into his fold like
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
had them
Right.
dancing and laughing. They thought it was the biggest joke, and they, I'll never forget it. That was
That's
just one of the antics that he did.
yeah.
Dude,
Well, if the audience sees the band having a good time, then they will
yeah,
have.
we
Yeah, yeah,
we had a good time. He
yeah.
definitely did
That's great.
because he did. We did. It was very contagious.
That's right. It rubs off. It does. It does.
They were not they were not a big band. It was after the Beatles. It was in the early '70s, and they were just doing it for the fun.
Yeah.
And nobody really believed that we could ever make it big, have a top 10. But we did go and record a little song that I wrote for them to use as a promo to get jobs.
Okay.
And it worked. The song worked, and we got a lot of jobs out of it. And man, those were the days. If I
Yeah.
could go back, I think it would be that time
Right. Well, I
with
was going
those
to say,
guys.
it had to make you feel good to help this band along
Oh
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely did.
Yeah.
Every one of them I loved. They were such great guys. They were friends from high school, and they were younger than me by, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years, maybe. But they had such great attitudes. Their dads bought them some brand new custom amplifiers. I don't know if you remember the rolled and pleated amplifiers. It was called custom,
Oh,
KUSTOM, I think. So we
okay.
had a wall of blue custom amplifiers behind us, and
Yeah.
everything was going great. And we just took it and
Yeah.
ran with it.
Right. I make another joke about the times we're living in. It's good that we have home studios now, with the
Really,
apps because we couldn't afford to use the egg crates to line a studio these days.
yeah.
It's too expensive, cost of eggs.
That's that was the way the first studio
Yeah,
that I recorded in with the trademarks
yeah,
was I want to say probably a 15 by 15 room, and the ceiling and the walls were all of those old cardboard egg cartons
yeah, yeah. Right.
stapled or tacked to the wall.
Yeah,
The whole thing was covered so the sound
yeah,
wouldn't reverberate.
right. I wonder who first discovered that using those,
I don't know, but pretty prominent,
Yeah,
prevalent back in those days.
yeah. How that would help the sound like that. That's,
Arlingwood Records in outside of Jacksonville, Florida.
yeah.
Little memories pop up every now and
That's right. Well, hopefully, that's what I like. If you don't remember things right away, hopefully in the course of talking, things will, come
then. Well,
back.
if you want to do this again some other time, let me know. We'll get into
Okay.
another subject.
All right. All right. Well,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was
well, I,
a
I do
pleasure meeting you.
pleasure meeting you too, Wayne. And thank you for all your effort and perseverance in making this happen too.
For
Uh,
everybody out there still remembers us, thank you. Appreciate it.
right, right.
I'm not getting rich over it, but it sure is a nice feeling.
Yeah, and it will be fun too because I like reading the comments after we do these and post it.
Really.
Not only on your Facebook, but also on my channel. And I like to see those and read those. Those are always those fun, because you'll get people coming out of the woodwork and saying, "Wow, do you remember that show I saw you at the show in,
Yeah,
19 what? Yeah, uh-huh, and
takes
everything
me
like
back to do that.
yeah, it does, and it kind of it helps keep it alive. It helps keep
Keeps
it
me
alive.
young.
Yes, keeps you young. That's right. That's right.
Most of my friends are all younger people, and it just I don't like hanging around with people my age. Makes me feel old.
I know as I'm getting up there, I'm like, I still think that I'm 20, 30 years old, and it's not like that. It's not like that anymore. Well, my body starts to tell me I'm not young anymore, not my mind.
Yeah, Oh, I'll tell you, I'm getting ready to turn 78. I've been around a good while, but but I guess I'm fortunate to have good genes. It keeps me going. I
Yeah.
really don't feel any different than I did when I was 40, or
Right.
except for my body aches occasionally.
There you go. Right. That's how I'm feeling. So I'm
Still
like,
riding a motorcycle, and if I
yeah,
had my horse, be riding a horse.
there you go. There you go.
I used to have horses, and I
Okay. Okay.
broke.
Wow.
That's another story. I broke my back on one of those.
Ow, ow. Okay. Well, how is your, did it heal up or you still have back problems? Do you think?
I still have the back issues, but I'm not focusing on it.
Okay. Okay. My,
Give a
my,
little
my wife,
plug to my. I'm sorry. Go
my,
ahead.
my wife has scoliosis. So,
Oh yeah. Well,
she has that curved spine. So she's had it all her life,
Holly
Go
has a bit of that.
goes to a massage, a masseuse, periodically and things like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll plug my chiropractor. I've been going to him for so many years. I can't
Chiropractor.
even.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tom Little in Powdersville, South Carolina. He just
Yeah.
keeps
Yeah.
my feet, keeps me
Yeah. She
moving.
does that. She's tried different things. She's tried the cupping on the back, where they put the
Hmm.
cups, and then it leaves like red marks, red circles on their back for weeks, it seems.
Heard of that, but I've never.
Yeah, she tries that. She tried the acupuncture. She's tried the, chiropractor, massaging. Yeah, all of those kind of things. So yeah,
So many different chiropractic styles
yeah,
out there.
yeah.
You got to find the right one fits
Yes,
your.
yes, that suits her. Yeah, yeah. So she's living with that. But anyway, well, again, thank you, Wayne.
All
Uh,
right.
I do appreciate it, and we'll see again what kind of comments we get and what kind of mileage we can get out of this.
When
And
you get bored and you want to talk, give me a call.
okay, okay, we'll
All
do.
right.
You have a good what is today? Sunday, right? Okay, yeah, it is Sunday. See, I had to do
Yes.
that too. I had to do that. I had to think. Wait, yeah, it is Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yesterday I was all set up for this and
I
got
know,
what day it was.
I know, I knew you
What a,
did. I knew you did.
what a
That's
disappointment, you know.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, all right, all right. Yeah, we will, and definitely we'll stay in touch. I'll stay in touch, and
Okay, great.
and yeah, and I like to hear from you. Let me know anything that's going on, personal wise or music wise, anything. If you want to keep me posted.
If you have any further questions, just let me know on
Okay.
Facebook.
Okay. Will do. Will do. All right. Well, you have a good rest of the Sunday, and have a good week ahead too.
Likewise, take care of that labradoodle.
Okay, I will. We need to shave him. He's too furry now. When we shave him, he looks just like a Labrador, because you get all the
Easy.
curly heart hair off of him.
Yeah.
And he's real sleek and looks just like a lab. Yeah.
What's his name?
Max. Yeah.
Max?
Yeah.
Max?
Max. Yeah. Yeah. And we call him Mad Max sometimes too. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Love him.
he's a nice dog though. He's a good dog. All right then, Wayne. Again, all the best to you. All right, and
Okay, good. Thank you.
we'll be in touch. All
All
right.
right. Adios.